Beggar who lived south of Kiyomizu and the woman's plot to murder men. Once upon a time, there was a certain nobleman of high status whose age was still young and whose appearance was exceptionally refined. Perhaps he was a lieutenant of the imperial guards. This man, secretly visiting Kiyomizu, saw a woman walking on foot, wearing elegant and splendid attire. The lieutenant, observing her, thought, "This person must not be of low birth, coming here secretly on foot." He looked upon her, who appeared unsuspecting. He judged her to be about 20 years old. Her appearance was remarkably beautiful, and there was something uniquely elegant about her. Struck by her, the lieutenant thought, who could this woman be? It would be wrong not to speak to her. Thus, captivated by her presence, he lost all composure and called one of his attendants to follow the woman as she left the temple. The lieutenant, returning home, soon received a report from the attendant. I followed her discreetly and discovered that she does not live in the capital. Her residence is south of Kiyomizu, in the northern area of Amitaba's Peak. She lives in a place of great splendor. When I questioned an elderly woman accompanying her, she said, "It is strange that you followed us all this way. What business do you have?" I replied that my lord had instructed me to find out where the woman lived. The elderly woman then said, "If you ever come this way again, seek me out." Pleased with the information, the lieutenant sent the woman a letter, and she responded with a message written in a delicate and beautiful hand. In this manner, the correspondence continued for some time. Eventually, the woman replied, "I am from a mountain village and do not come to the capital often. If you wish to see me, come here, and I will speak with you from behind a screen." The lieutenant, eager to meet her, joyfully set out for her home in secret. Accompanied only by two attendants, a stable boy and a groom, they left the capital at dusk and, under the cover of darkness, made their way to the woman's residence. When they arrived, the lieutenant sent a servant to announce their presence, and the woman came out and said, "Please, come in." Following her inside, the lieutenant observed a strong surrounding wall and a high gate. Crossing over a deep moat by a bridge, they entered, and the companions were instructed to leave the horses outside the moat in a stable. The lieutenant, now alone, saw that the house had several rooms, and there was a reception room that seemed to be prepared for guests. Entering through a sliding door, the lieutenant saw that the room was well appointed with screens and fine mats, and the inner part of the room was hung with curtains. Despite being in a remote mountain village, the lieutenant, thinking there must be a reason for such luxury, felt uneasy as night fell. The woman eventually came out, and after some conversation, the two went to bed behind the screen. As they grew closer, the bond between them deepened, and the night passed in great intimacy. During the night, the woman appeared troubled, as though in deep thought, and it seemed as if she might be crying secretly. The lieutenant, sensing something strange, asked, "Why do you look so sorrowful?" The woman replied, "I just feel a great sadness." The lieutenant, finding this even more suspicious, pressed her, saying, "Now that we have become so close, there is no need to hide anything. What is troubling you?" At this, the woman, shedding tears, said, "I did not intend to tell you, but since it will soon be too late, I must confess something that will distance us forever. I am the daughter of a noble family in the capital. After my parents passed away, I was left alone. The master of this house, a beggar, found me and brought me here, keeping me hidden and raising me. He sometimes takes me to Kiyomizu Temple, where he has made plans to lure men like you. After making love to the man, a spear is lowered from the ceiling during the night, and the man is stabbed through the chest and killed. His clothes are stripped, and his attendants are murdered and robbed as well. This has happened twice already, and it will surely happen again tonight." Hearing this, the lieutenant was horrified, but remained calm, saying, "What a strange and dreadful thing. Your offer to die in my place is noble, but it would be heartbreaking to leave you behind. Let us escape together." The woman responded, "I have thought about that, but if we are both found missing, they will pursue us, and we will both surely be killed. You must escape alone, and later do good deeds for my sake. I am certain this will be the last time such a crime is committed. Please hurry and leave before it is too late." The lieutenant, reluctant but convinced, asked, How can I escape? The woman told him. The bridge across the moat will be pulled up soon. You must leave through the side door and cross the narrow edge of the moat. There is a small water gate in the wall. Once you are outside, flee without looking back. As they spoke, they heard sounds from deeper within the house, and the lieutenant, fearful but resolved, followed the woman's instructions. Quietly, he slipped out through the side door, crossed the moat, and crawled through the water gate to freedom. Once outside, the lieutenant was unsure of where to go. As he ran aimlessly, he heard footsteps behind him. Terrified, he turned to see who was chasing him, but it was only his faithful attendant. The servant explained, "When I saw the bridge being pulled up, I thought something was wrong. I crept out and overheard that everyone else had been killed. I hid in the bushes, waiting to see what would happen, and when I saw you running, I followed." The two of them fled back toward the capital, and as they neared Gojo Bridge, they looked back and saw a great fire coming from the direction of the woman's house. Realizing that the woman had sacrificed herself, the lieutenant wept bitterly. They soon reached the capital and vowed to never speak of what had happened. Every year thereafter, the lieutenant held a great Buddhist ceremony to honor the woman's memory, ensuring that her spirit was at peace. Thus, the story has been passed down. The woman abandons her child to escape the beggars. Once upon a time, two beggars were passing through a mountain located in the province of Shapsh in the district of Shasht. Ahead of them was a young woman walking while carrying a child on her back. Seeing the beggars approaching from behind, the woman tried to move aside to let them pass. However, the beggars stopped in front of her and told her, "Hurry up and move along," but did not let her pass. As the woman continued walking ahead, one of the beggars ran up and grabbed her. Since they were deep in the mountains where no one else was around, the woman had no way to resist and said, "What do you intend to do?" The beggar replied, "Come with us. We have something to say to you." And they dragged her deeper into the mountains, while the other beggar stood nearby, watching. The woman, realizing her predicament, said, "Please don't be so rash. I will listen to whatever you have to say." The beggar replied, "Well then, come along." The woman, thinking quickly, said, "Even though we are in the mountains, it's unseemly to talk about such things out in the open. At least build a screen of some kind, using branches to conceal us." The beggar, thinking her suggestion reasonable, began to cut down some branches to build a makeshift screen. The other beggar, however, stood guard, worried that the woman might try to escape. The woman, seeing this, said, "I have no intention of running away. However, since this morning, I've been suffering from severe stomach pains. I'd like to go over there and relieve myself, but I promise I will return shortly." The beggar, suspicious, said, "I won't let you go." The woman then proposed, "If you're that worried, you can hold on to my child as a guarantee. This child is more precious to me than my own life. Everyone, whether of high or low rank, knows the pain of losing a child. Therefore, if I leave my child behind, there's no way I would abandon it and run." She added, "The truth is, I've had terrible stomach pains since morning. That's why I wanted to stop and wait for a moment to relieve myself." The beggar, believing her, took the child into his arms, thinking there's no way she'd abandon her child and run away. He then told her, "Fine, go quickly and come back." The woman walked a short distance away, pretending to prepare to relieve herself. However, as soon as she was far enough, she thought, "Now's my chance to escape," and ran as fast as she could down the mountain path. At that very moment, 4 or 5 men, heavily equipped and riding horses, appeared on the road. Seeing the woman panting and running, they asked, "Why are you running like that?" The woman explained, "I was escaping from those beggars." The warriors, concerned, asked, "Where are they?" And, following the woman's directions, spurred their horses and charged into the mountains. When they arrived at the spot, they saw branches scattered around and the child, whom the beggars had ripped into pieces and discarded before fleeing. The warriors, realizing the futility of the situation, gave up their pursuit. Although the woman deeply grieved for her child, she had made up her mind that she would never allow herself to be caught by the beggars. The warriors praised her for her decision, saying, "Even among the lower classes, there are people who know shame." Thus, the story has been passed down. The Encounter with a Tiger in Silla. Once upon a time, a group of people from the Chikuzen province boarded a ship to trade in Silla. After completing their business, they were on their way back, rowing along the coast of Silla. At one point, they decided to stop the boat near a place where water flowed so they could collect some fresh water. They anchored the ship, and some people disembarked to fetch the water. While one man stayed aboard, gazing out at the sea, he noticed the reflection of something moving on the water. Looking up, he saw a tiger crouched on a high cliff, about 3 or 4 approximately 9 to 12 meters, above the ground, observing something as if it were preparing to pounce. The tiger's reflection appeared clearly on the surface of the sea. Alarmed, the man on the boat quickly told his companions who were gathering water, calling them back to the boat in a hurry. As everyone scrambled aboard, they hastily rowed to get away. But just as they were about to escape, the tiger leapt down from the cliff, aiming to land in the boat. Luckily, the ship had already pulled away. The tiger, unable to reach the boat, fell into the sea, just short by about approximately 3 meters. The crew aboard the boat was struck with fear and panic. As they rowed away, they gathered to watch the tiger. They saw the tiger struggling in the water, but it soon managed to climb onto a flat rock near the shore. As they looked closer, they noticed that the tiger's left front paw had been severed below the knee, and blood was gushing out. It seemed that when the tiger fell into the sea, a crocodile had bitten off its paw. After a while, a crocodile emerged from the depths of the sea, heading straight for the tiger. The crew watched in terror, expecting the crocodile to attack the tiger. But just as the crocodile lunged, the tiger struck back. With its remaining right paw, the tiger drove its claws into the crocodile's head, lifting the crocodile and throwing it onto the shore. The crocodile landed about a jo, approximately 3 meters, away on its back, floundering in the sand. The tiger, seeing this, rushed over and bit down on the crocodile's throat. Shaking the crocodile violently 2 or 3 times, the tiger killed it. Then, with the crocodile still clamped in its jaws, the tiger, now on only 3 legs, climbed a nearby cliff about 5 or 6 jo, 15 to 18 meters, high as easily as if it were running down a slope. The people on the boat, watching this terrifying scene, were so frightened they felt as though half of them might die from shock. They shuddered and said to each other, "If that tiger had made it onto the boat, none of us would have survived. We would have all been mauled to death, never to return home to see our wives and children again. Even with the strongest bows and weapons and 1,000 soldiers to defend us, we would have stood no chance against such a beast. And here we are, cramped in a small boat. There would have been no way to fight back." With their nerves shattered, they could barely manage to row the ship. Nevertheless, they made it back to Chikuzen safely, where they recounted the story to their families, grateful to have survived. When others heard the tale, they too were filled with fear and awe. Reflecting on this event, it is clear that the crocodile, which is a fearsome and clever creature in the sea, managed to bite off the tiger's paw when it fell into the water. However, in trying to attack the tiger again near the shore, it met its own demise. Just as with this incident, people must understand that excessive ambition can lead to ruin. Thus, it has been said, one must stop before going too far. Moderation is the key to success, and so the story has been passed down. The dog that defeated the giant serpent in Mutsu. Once upon a time, in the province of Mutsu, there lived a poor man who resided in a certain district. He kept several dogs and often took them deep into the mountains to hunt. With his dogs, he would catch boar and deer, encouraging the dogs to bite and kill the animals. This became his daily occupation, whether day or night. Over time, the dogs became skilled at hunting, and whenever their master entered the mountains, the dogs, eager for the hunt, would happily rush ahead. This way of life led people to call the place Dog Mountain. One day, as usual, the man took his dogs into the mountains. Since he often stayed for several days, he had brought provisions. That night, he rested inside the hollow of a large tree with his humble bow, quiver, and sword placed nearby while a fire burned in front of him. The dogs lay around him, resting. Among his many dogs, there was one particularly clever dog that he had raised for many years. Late into the night, when all the other dogs were sleeping, this dog suddenly got up and ran toward the hollow tree where its master was lying, barking furiously. The man thought, what could this dog be barking at? He looked around carefully, but there was nothing to bark at. The dog, however, continued barking relentlessly, and eventually it even lunged toward its master, barking at him. The man was startled and thought, what's wrong with this dog? There's nothing out there, and now it's barking at me. Um, he suspected that the dog, perhaps driven wild by the isolation of the mountains, intended to attack him. Fearing for his life, he drew his sword, ready to strike the dog down. Yet the dog did not stop. It kept lunging and barking. Realizing that it would be dangerous to fight the dog inside the narrow tree hollow, the man decided to leap outside. As soon as he did, the dog sprang up toward the top of the hollow and bit down on something. The man, now outside, realized, so it wasn't trying to attack me after all. Curious, he looked to see what the dog had bitten and, to his shock, saw a massive creature fall from above. The dog was fiercely gripping it with its teeth. It was a serpent about 6 or 7 sun, 1821 centimeters thick, and over 2 jo, 6 meters long. The serpent had fallen after its head had been bitten so painfully by the dog that it could no longer hold on. Seeing this terrifying creature, the man's fear quickly turned into admiration for his dog. He took his sword and swiftly killed the snake. Only after the snake was dead did the dog let go and move away. The man then realized that he had been lying near the base of a tall tree where this enormous serpent had made its home in a hollow high above. The snake had been waiting to devour him as he slept. The dog, sensing this, had been barking and lunging in an attempt to warn its master and scare off the serpent. The man had been completely unaware of the danger looming above him and had mistakenly thought the dog was going to bite him. Later that night, the man lay awake, thinking how close he had come to killing his faithful dog. If he had done so, both he and the dog would have perished, with him being swallowed by the serpent. At dawn, he inspected the size and length of the dead snake and felt as though half his life had drained away from sheer terror. He thought, had I fallen asleep, this snake would have come down and wrapped around me. This dog is truly an incredible creature, like a treasure not of this world, sent to protect me. With deep gratitude, the man returned home with his dog. Reflecting on this event, it is clear that if the man had killed the dog, both the dog and he would have been swallowed by the serpent. Therefore, in moments of uncertainty, one must remain calm and think clearly before taking action. This extraordinary story has been passed down through the ages.